I got to move on to the next topic. So, Shoot the Breeze topic number 4 is it fair for only children of the diaspora to be singled out like this? What is this? This takes us to YouTube.
The enemy wants to go out off and flip off on somebody, but you won't get answers that way. So
Parents had a cruise today following student assembly at Bunnell Elementary. That's because only black students were asked to attend. The school district confirms that the kids were brought to that assembly in an effort to improve test scores.
But some parents and community leaders are not buying it. Fox 35's Stephanie Belfamonte spoke with them tonight. Parents are outraged their black children were singled out and say the school made them feel like they're just not good enough. NAACP is now working with the district on where we go from here.
Initially in the car, they said, oh, we all got pulled into an assembly, but it was all black kids.
Jacinda Arrington and Alexis Smith later learned their 4th graders were taken out of class and to an assembly at Bunnell Elementary, along with all the other black kids in the school. The parents tell me the assembly focused on improving test scores and that their children were told if they didn't have good grades, they'll end up in jail or on the streets.
To me, I feel like it told my child that she's not good enough.
Yeah, exactly that.
The skin, exactly the color of your skin means that you are not good enough, when in fact, she's one of the smartest kids in her class.
They say their kids passed their test too.
Now there's more questions like, why was I taken out of class and singled out, but the rest of, the other black students, why are we here? If we passed, was it not good enough? Am I not smart enough? Does that not count? All my hard work?
According to the Flagler County School District, this was the school's attempt to motivate the black children to raise their test scores. Last week's presentation opened up with the statement, quote, AA have underperformed on standardized assessments for the past 3 years. AA meaning African American. The district said in part, quote, while the desire to help this particular subgroup of students is to be commended, how this was done does not meet the expectations we desire among Flagler schools.
I actually thought, what in the world is going on at first?
Dr. Phyllis Pearson is the Flagler chapter NAACP president and a former principal at Bunnell Elementary. She's been talking with the superintendent and parents.
We can see how we can still help them and support them and never go back to doing such a thing again. It's not right. It's not okay. And I'm sure people want consequences. I understand that, but the consequences, you learn to do better.
She says she will be meeting with the superintendent again to look at ways on how the school can be accountable and take responsibility for what happened. She also says they will continue to work with local schools and empower parents. Reporting in Bunnell, Stephanie Belfamonte, Fox 35 News.
I don't know why the screen was kind of weird. I don't know what's happening here. This is strange. But you guys was able to see that, I'm sure, and hear the whole story. Shoot the Breeze, topic number 4, says, is it fair for only children of the diaspora to be singled out like this? Carl, I'm going to start with you. What did you think of what you saw in that story piece?
I mean, it was very deliberate. It's definitely not fair, but it was very deliberate. Again, it goes back to what we were saying, how anti-blackness is pervasive in society. These children were singled out and made to feel inferior, made to feel stupid. I don't know what's on the tests. And I do believe that these standardized tests from somebody who's in education, many of these standardized tests are not a fair measurement of intelligence. And they're teaching to the test, and they're not teaching these children, they're not educating them, they're just teaching them just enough to pass the test. And the children aren't engaged. The education doesn't speak to their particular, to their group, to their struggles, to their strengths. It's all about just learning what's on the test so you can graduate or you can pass, so the school can get a good grade on the school and bring in more money. And then when these children don't have education that speaks to them. When they're sent home, I don't know what's all in the test. Then they try to single out, oh, you're making the school look bad because of your low scores. And they singled out these children to make them feel less than, to make them feel inferior. That was very much a deliberate tactic on behalf of the school. If you want to sit up here and say our students are only at a level 3 of math, then I think that has to be looked at not just on the student level. You have to look at the teachers. You have to look at the parents. Are the parents going over the work in school? Too many times we expect teachers to do everything and the parents nothing. Are you going over your child's homework? Are you reading to them? Are you helping them correct mistakes? It's not enough to just give birth to a child and just send them off into the world and let them run loose. But at the same time, what this school did was, there's no excuse for it. It's unconscionable. It's very deliberate. I understand why why the need for homeschooling is starting to increase more and more for Black children because of incidents like this, where they're going to be mistreated and dehumanized. So yeah, this definitely was not something that should have been singled out the way this was done. So I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I agree with you, Carl. I think the importance of this story is to show that you need to not send your children to these schools. And if you have to, as you stated, you have to be on top of them and their learning. These white folks know that these standardized tests are biased. We all know this shit. We've known this for the last 30 years or more, right? But they will still do all this stuff to demean these children, right? They'll still do all this stuff to lower their confidence in themselves, etc. But that's all a part of what they do, and this is why you got to keep them away from this stuff. With that, let me throw it to Oni. Oni, what say you?
Peace. Yeah. So initially I was kind of like, I mean, if we were to just buy into the school's argument, hey, look, we're trying to help these kids, right? But like, nah, let's not even, right? Sorry, I'm mad at that. All right. So I was like, when I was in elementary school, we did tracking. Tracking is when you put some kids in what they call the gifted program and some kids not in the gifted program, right? So in the Brooklyn high school, no, Brooklyn elementary school, okay, the gifted classes were filled with white students and token Blacks, and the regular classes, the non-gifted classes, were filled with Black kids and token whites. And there was also like the lowest class, right, which were kind of the ESL kids, right? But that was probably more like in high school or whatever. But my point is that in elementary school, they segregated us, and one of my earliest memories of quote unquote racial injustice, if you will, was a student telling me, "Hey, don't act like you're smart because look at the gifted class. They're all white. We're all Black." And this kid was left back like 3 times. And again, this is an elementary school, so he's, I don't know, like 12 or 13. I don't know what the age is, but he's 3 years older than the rest of us. And he's already feeling inferior. He's like, look, Black people are inferior. Black people are dumber. Just look at, the segregation in front of us, right? So I'm saying this, right? At the end of the day, another people will not educate your children except to be their tools. I could think back to when I was, because like I said, there was tracking. I didn't get to be one of those token blacks. I was, with the black kids, which is cool, in retrospect, obviously. But I remember I was still pretty good for a non-gifted student. You know what I'm saying? To the point where I got an award by the history department in my high school. And what they gave me, though, they gave me a book, and it was like the autobiography of W.B. Du Bois. So as to say that, like I might have been, exhibiting a few radicalisms, and all that kind of stuff back then, and they were like, no, 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 no. Look at this. This is the guy you should be like. Booker T, not Booker T. Washington. Who did I say? W.B. Du Bois. Try to be like W.B. Du Bois. For those you don't know, W. Du Bois was one of the people who sabotaged Marcus Garvey's UNIA effort in Liberia and promoted the Firestone, debacle, so on and so forth. But my point being that they wanted me to be a tool. That's all. That's all the system is for. That's all their school system is for. So if you're sending your child to their school, right? What do you expect? And here's the thing: they're saying that they don't need most of you. And I just want to point out this: if you guys see the graphic, it was saying that 34% or 31% or something like that passed, or 34% passed. No, right, 34% passed. They need 41%. You know what I mean? So right here, matter of fact, 32% passed. We're supposed to have at least 41%. They don't care about you. You are just something for them to get, continue to get funding. That's it. They don't get 41% barely passing. That's all they want from you. You sending your child there and you thinking, oh man, I'm doing the right thing. Okay, that's fine. But believe me when I tell you, they do not care about you. And I can tell y'all when I was because I was actually a smart kid, right? And I used to beg them, oh man, let me get into the the gifted program. Let me get into the gifted program. I don't know, self-esteem things. I don't know, right? And they were like, pretty much like, sorry, N-word, we have our quota. Now, they didn't say that, but I remember, I'll tell you guys, how you knew everything was messed up. So I was actually good at math, right? And so I actually there's like the high school regions. It was like high school regions A. I got a perfect score. So that was like the highest score in the school, obviously. Because to me, it was the highest score in the city, right? So I got a perfect score on this thing. And they were still like, no, you can't go into the gifted math class. And I was like, wait, but I got the highest score in the school. They were like, yeah, we don't care. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it kind of makes me a little sad thinking about it in retrospect. But like, they don't care about you. They're not trying to train you. There's nothing. And that's all I'm going to say. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that's a real messed up story there, to be honest with you, Oni. Let me hear from Buana. Buana would say.
Yeah, I would tell my kids and Oni's kids and Brother Bakari's kids and all the other black children that academic success does not equate to financial success or even life success. There are other things that goes in to turning a child in a successful black man or woman. Now I understand that these things are heavily laced, these academic institutions are heavily laced with standardized testing. You gotta test for this, you gotta test for that, whatever. But it has no real world effect. In fact, if you look at the Fortune 500 companies in America, you will find high school dropouts, you will find college dropouts, you will find people who even visit any academic institution. So the premise of I may not necessarily be able to get a A in a math class, but mean that I'll be a failure in life is a nonsense. It's a falsehood that they sell to young people. Now I am a believer in education. I think that Black people should be properly informed and properly educated. Whether if it's by formal institution or whether it's by you visiting libraries and properly informing yourself. But what these Black children do have is America is run by credit score. As long as I graduate and have a clean credit score, and I could use this thing called what's the word? Okay. Reserved spending habits. If I watch my money and I get $20,000 as a 21-year-old, I could buy my first house and go into real estate and eventually become a millionaire if I work that right. If I work that right. If I work that right. The whole idea of me being able to get an A or be in school equate to me being a success in life is a nonsense. It's an absolute nonsense. Another thing is that intellectually, children have openings at different points. You can't just say that, oh, because I didn't get a grade at this point, I'm a fool or I'm a failure or whatever. They have intellectual openings at different points in their lives. Some people have it in the first grade. Some people have it in the seventh grade. Some people have it in the 12th grade. Some people have it long after they didn't leave universities and colleges. And they educated themselves to a point to where they could become a success in their own right. So I'm not going to disrespect the whole situation of academia, but I would just only suggest that the idea that you're only going to be a life success based on the fact that I was able to get a 4.0 in university or high school is a ridiculous notion, because there's so many other people who've proven that to be a false notion. False notion. Now, we do need scientists, we do need doctors, we do need people in the so-called formal professions, but also we need thinkers, we need businessmen, we need people who could innovate, and innovate sometimes don't come within the structure of the so-called academic institution. Sometimes people have to think outside the box to recreate the world, and there are many people who've done it. So I understand that with parents are very concerned, because parents want to see their children prosper. Parents want to see them children become the best of themselves. But it's not only within an academic institution where you can become your best self. Sometimes there are many men who've become their best self outside of the so-called academic institution. But they shouldn't be mistreated. They shouldn't be singled out. I think it's a wrong thing to do. But I also believe that we as a community should take two notes. One, within the formal setting, to be formally instructed to learn how to count, how to add, do simple things like that. But the other note that we should take is outside of the institution, where we know who we are as a people. We know what the situation we are currently in. So we need to act accordingly. We need to act accordingly and be clever and use wisdom outside of the institution, because we could think for ourselves as well. Because we know the institutions are going to brainwash us in a particular way, but we must also brainwash ourselves. This goes back to Brother Bakari's statements of sending positive messages and informing your children, propagandizing your children in a positive way and manner, and viewing their world through their eyes, not only through the eyes of the institution. So I don't know. I see this in two different kinds of ways and manner, and properly preparing children to become well-informed human beings and adults. But I don't know. You're in America, you're in the beast, the belly of the beast, the proverbial belly of the beast, and they only can do certain things, in particular with Black children. But the onus is on the parents to properly instruct their children in how to function in American society, to make well-informed adults and human beings. Don't put so much importance on whether this institution is going to properly instruct your child. The onus is on you. So you're supposed to exercise some degree of agency on where you want your child to go and how you want your child to think, and a way and manner in regards to your child being a properly functioning human being or citizen in that particular society. But I'll leave it there.
I appreciate that, Buana. Bakari in the chat said, should those black children be critiqued? Or is it a problem because the people critiquing black children is white? And I'll just say this quickly before I throw it to Bakari to say his part. Is the first thing I said was, me personally, first thing I said was, it's the system. I don't even see why I would critique the children per se, but I would critique the system that they're in. And similar to what Buana just said and Oni and Black Steel, I would only ask that the parents of these children be more diligent. And I don't think that's a critique. I think that's just a suggestion. But Bakari, what say you to all of it?
That was a little sarcasm and serious at the same time. But my point to that is, of course, they picked them because they were black and that's what they wanted to do. That's why I believe in positive reinforcement. See, the problem that a lot of people have with the school system, I understand. But me per se, I didn't have that same problem because I taught my kids at home. It was things at school. They learned to be social at school. Certain math, I damn sure can't teach them at home. So most people say they're doing homeschooling. To be honest, they're gonna need to. Now I don't even understand the need for algebra and geometry. Me personally, I don't understand the need for that. But I taught my kids at home, and I would tell my children, give them the answer that they want on their test, as long as you remember the real answers, the truthful answers, especially about history. I've been through that with my son when my son had the highest average in the whole school, but he was not selected for a special program because they said his imagination wasn't good enough. And so the next time they asked, and we going through that, I forget what it's called, and we want your son to be, and we hope your son want to join this year and do the right things that need to be done. And as my son sat next to me, I told that woman, look, y'all white folks will never in y'all life have the opportunity to tell my child he ain't good enough for nothing. He the smartest person in his school. That's good enough for him. And if you mention anything about your accelerated classes to my child, y'all will have a problem with me. Y'all mad because he's smarter than all these white folk. But see, that's me. And I told him they better not, and he could not go into accelerated programming in that school. He did it when we went to another school, but I would not allow it in there. But hey, that's when positive reinforcement is needed. But I asked that question kind of like joking, like, shit, maybe they're critiquing the student. Maybe the student and us doing what they're supposed to do. Or do we say, and Carl said chill, but in a way or do we see a problem with them critiquing and seeing something wrong because they're white? Now I know why they are doing it, but I did ask that question.
If Brother Bakari was my dad, and Brother Bakari showed me how to convert industrial bleach into commercial bleach, where I can knock on all of my friends' mothers' houses in high school and sell them bleach, and rather than them buying Clorox bleach, by the time I graduate, I would have homes and be able to give my friends in high school jobs. Should it matter whether I could pass a school exam or not?
Well, I agree, and I think also too that these schools are not really so meant to educate, but to indoctrinate and teach to the test. I was in a couple gifted classes in high school, but I remember my mother had to fight for me My mother used to come down to that school and raise hell because I was a smart black boy. I enjoyed reading, and I was punished for reading in class. And my mother, I remember this, I was in 4th grade, and she said that if it was a little white boy who enjoyed reading, that would be encouraged. But here, my black son who loves to read, when you call him reading in class, you put him outside the classroom. What is he? He's not learning anything, but you made an example out of him. So I remember that so vividly. And I didn't get taken out of school, but I know that she was on those people. And one thing I know about many times these schools, if you get lax with your child, if you're not showing up to the conferences, if you're not checking the homework, these schools will definitely put these children on the school to prison pipeline. So if you're not able to get your kids out of school, understand that you're going to have to be vigilant. You're going to have to be on top of these schools, so that way they don't put your black child, in a box. So I just said that just to just kind of understand that, again, these people are our enemy, and even black children aren't safe from their wrath. So I'll leave it there. That's my thoughts on that.
Let's welcome in Real Black Gentleman this week. Real Black Gentleman, what say you?
Man, what's up? I'm not going to be long. My whole thing is just the whole, I mean, I don't have kids, but, I went to school, right? Like, the whole idea in the pretext of all it, where you're just going to separate out black people, you know what I'm saying? In the context of what's going on in Florida, that anywhere in and of itself, I mean, that's like, that's major vulnerability. That's all your eggs in one basket type situation. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like anything like, I mean, I see Florida and I'll say this. I don't want black people to run away from Florida. I don't like, geospatially and geopolitically, you don't want to just kind of scatter inland. You know what I'm saying? I really don't think that's smart. When the NCAA says that shit, they only embolden more white people to like act out and do white things. The whole like education system in Florida is being exposed as just a creationist crockpot of, you know what I'm saying? They're going to start making up stuff as they go along. So, I mean, that's one thing to always keep your eye on. And, they want to use Florida as this, they really want to like purge black people out of Florida. And the whole thing is like, when I sit here and see groups of black people being, corralled together, you know what I'm saying? That's scary. I mean, I don't like that. The whole, where it said the problem, African Americans, you know what I'm saying, are performing at 32%. We are supposed to, is that what they said to the kids? And the whole idea that they would even invoke, the punitiveness of the full weight of the American justice system on them kids, that, you know what I'm saying, out of line, you know what I'm saying? Like, but if it's happening there, who knows where else it's happening to? Maybe not to the same degree. Maybe it was like 80% black kids, you know what I'm saying, sprinkling a couple white boys or so. These are the kind of things that, I mean, it's ugly. I mean, black people definitely need the homeschooler and be autodidactic and what Brian was talking about, the whole school itself. I mean, oh geez, I wouldn't want to send my kids to a lot of schools around me just on the strength. Like, if I had kids, it's like one of those things where it's like, I better want to homeschool and put knowledge in my child's head. I better want to do that. I better want him to be a champion at 10. I better. You know what I'm saying? I better want him to understand the world around him better than people twice his age. I better want that. You know what I'm saying? Like, see, I mean, who are they saying that to? We are supposed to have 41. Like, are you saying that to the kids? Like, I don't know. I don't want to keep rambling. It's ugly. Just keep an eye on. And one thing I want to say about Florida, right? Going back to that, the shooting, right? The whole shooting in Florida. Then you had the hurricane, right? And I don't know if anyone else heard this, right? You had DeSantis making a big emphasis about looting. And if you loot, we will shoot. as everyone knows, this is a Second Amendment state. Now, it's incredibly insensitive in light of the fact that you just had a dude shoot up a store. And we all know that stores and places tend to be looted. You know, it's ugly. I mean, call it what it is. You know what I'm saying? I'm not cool with any of that. Florida's getting real froggy. I mean, I would say black people should, you know, put more emphasis in Florida. Don't believe the NAACP and leaving out. You don't end up in NAACP duplicitous already. So, like, you know, black people in Florida, hold your ground. And you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna pass the mic.
Real black gentleman. I don't know if you ever seen the Wolf of Wall Street, but like DiCaprio said in Wolf of Wall Street, I'm not fucking leaving. So I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I'm not fucking leaving.
Let's get Oni briefly before I move on to the last topic for tonight. Oni.
Yeah, I was just gonna reinforce what Black Steel was saying. If you're so basically how it worked back in the day for me, if your parent advocates for you and you're, you know, all right, you know, you can advance. So but my mother, you know, like Buana says, she was a foreigner, right? So she didn't understand that, you know, like a parent's advocacy meant a lot, and she kind of thought I should do everything by myself. And so but I would like tell her, hey, look, no, the way it works here in America, at least, is that you know, like if your parent advocates for you, and that's what something that a classmate told me. But I'll just add to that. These days, you know, unfortunately, you probably see that crazy feminist type in those gifted programs now today, you know. And so there's an example of this woman who was complaining that her kid was saying girls wear dresses or something like that, you know. And she's like, ew, he's a misogynist, you know, that kind of nonsense. So watch out. I mean, so there's that negative, but the positive is that if you do like in this school system here in America, it's something that maybe most Americans would know, because like I guess Carl was saying that his mother knew. One of the things is that, yeah, if you advocate for your kid and your kid is good, like you can probably get them into the higher classes. But like I said, it might be that unfortunately a lot of the, you know, the feminist type are, you know, are that. So you know, watch out. You know, it's a double-edged sword. I kind of didn't mind the experience in the quote unquote lower classes, if you will. You know. Anyway, that's it.
All right, good discussion, gentlemen. By the way, Marcus Garvey is away, and Matron, other women who tune in. You guys should come on the panel sometimes. It'll be good to hear a black woman's perspective as well. Let's go to Shoot Breeze topic number 5, the last one for tonight.